Welcome to the Tradiers, the Trader's Edge. I am Jim Iuorio. That's Bob Iaccino. Thank you guys so much for joining us. And thank you for joining us too on Unfiltered Investor, where we take some of these topics and go down deeper in them. Bobby, about 45 minutes ago, I jumped in the ice bath in my backyard. Now it's 90 degrees out. So I thought it'd be enough, but I'm still freezing my nards off right now. So if my voice starts to quiver a little bit, and we forgot to bring back nards. Remember, we were going to do that.
I got a t-shirt design all set.
Okay,
it's
good.
all set. All we need to do is actually create a merchandise store and imagine, just pretend people will actually buy the shit.
Exactly. But if my voice starts to quiver, it's not because I'm unnecessarily nervous. It's because I'm still freezing my nards off and I'm drinking very hot tea and it's 90 in Chicago. Okay. So yesterday, it's been kind of a crazy week. Okay. Trump puts tariffs on copper to the tune of 50%, or at least talks about it. Copper goes through the roof, the biggest update in 40 years. Stocks still shrug everything off. Stocks are happy as a clam. What the hell? Why do they ignore every piece of bad news?
I can't wait to talk to Emma about this, but I mean, I just think the stocks have now dismissed that any of Trump. You talk about 200% tariffs on pharmaceuticals.
Yeah,
nobody believes that that's where it will end up, and it's not this Trump always chickens out thing. That's ridiculous,
no.
Right? It's everybody starting to realize that his proclamations are negotiation tactics, and it's likely not going to end up there. Again, can't wait to talk to Emma about this. But this 50% tariff on copper thing, I don't think it's going to be anywhere near there. I don't even understand the angle on that.
Neither do I. And for you guys who've been following us on both the Futures Edge and the Trader's Edge, Bobby particularly, and me secondarily, have been arguing that tariffs will not necessarily be as inflationary as everyone thought they would be. This one, though, is a little bit of a wild card. Like Bobby gave some statistics on the Tradier rundown. We don't produce as much copper as we use in this country. We need quite a bit of copper. And there's no way just to turn everybody's attention internally and buy it domestically, because those supplies will be gone very, very quickly. So this is interesting. Anyway, we are about to bring on our guest, Emma Muehlman, who is microstrategist for Ascend Capital, our good friend. She's always a ton of fun. Let's bring on Emma. Emma,
can I just start with Copilot's definition for NARDs?
What is it?
Threw it in a Microsoft Copilot. The term NARDs is vulgar slang for the testicles. It can also refer to confidence, self-esteem, or motivation, often in a masculine context. Additionally, it seems sometimes used to describe the protective piece of cushioning on a bicycle to safeguard
your
nards. Right.
Okay. You were talking about that with your cold bath, and I was like, it took me like halfway through to figure out what you were referring to.
I was freezing my nards off. Have you ever taken an ice bath, Emma?
I was about to Copilot search this thing. So no, I do. I just took a cold shower, but that's, I mean,
it's like a gateway. Cold shower's gateway to an ice plunge. So you're getting there. So
I would take an ice plunge. I just don't have one.
And you guys are both in Florida, correct?
No.
Yes. No, I am. She's not.
Yeah. So I'm
in California,
New York City, and then I own a place in Dallas. But
okay, because it's hard to keep the water cold enough in those warm weather places. I know in July and August, I just bought one of those console chillers, but it was then I found out it was on back order. So they have my $500, but I don't have the chiller.
It was only $500.
Yeah, that's all it was. And I have
fill up the water every time.
No, I don't fill up the water every time. I fill it up like twice a week, and then I have an extra freezer that I keep buckets of ice in, and I just throw them in there.
Okay.
And for those watching, by the way, this will get to be a financial show. Just wait. It morphs into a financial show.
I bet my nards will be. I bet my nards it will be a financial show.
No question about it. And I know Bobby, he's got some nards. That's another use of it. Right? I meant it in the metaphorical term.
That's the masculine sense.
Let's get off that and go. You heard us talk about the copper tariffs.
Yes.
And okay, the way copper reacted seemed relatively predictable to me. Huge up move. The way the stocks reacted, shrugged it off like, it's no big deal. This is kind of confounding to me. Can you shed any light on it?
Sure. So there's two things going on, in my opinion. You've got, well, first let's start with copper. So obviously copper shot up. Why did Trump do it? Because you guys were kind of speculating, I don't understand why he would do such a thing. Well, I guess we import most of our copper from Chile and Canada. And so, we've got tariff negotiations going on with them, and he kind of wants to, shoot things across the bow to the BRICS right now. And the BRICS is where obviously Peru, Mexico, most of our copper comes from. So, and you know what? They need to sell their copper to us, right? So, like, I think his tactic here is like, let's just we'll survive. I mean, we'll be fine. We'll just have to pay more for copper. Maybe we get some more inflation, but they'll back down before we need to, right? Like, that's kind of what I would guess.
So has Chile in the past, like, sided with the BRIC people, talked about alternate ways of paying besides dollars? Are they a criminal to us or no?
As far as I'm aware, no, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Because this latest BRICS summit, and I hear they're doing a lot of trying to get around the dollar, and that's pissing Trump off. And I don't know how much comes from Brazil, because he has something he's really wanting to get at Lula right now.
Bobby, I'm going to throw a question to you before you ask a question to Emma. But I actually think it's not a bad idea to start flexing our muscles about, are these other countries planning on not using the dollar? And he's not saying I'm going to bomb you. He's saying, okay, then we'll have to tariff you if you start to move away from the dollar. To me, that seemed relatively reasonable. Or am I supposed to just think everything Trump says is ridiculous lunacy? What is it supposed to be?
See, here's the thing that I find hilarious, and that's kind of where I was going next, is that you hear, so narratives chase price action, and I'm sure you two know that better than anybody. You hear everybody talking about and I know you, Jim, you love to talk about the deficits, but when you saw, did you remember the Japan 40-year issuance? How that failed? Right after that, we had a 10-year and a 30-year, and then our 30-year had some rough time. But that's not isolated to the U.S. Yields on the long end have gone up in all the G7 ever since that disaster, JGB 40-year attempt to issue them, yet no buyers show up. The pricing mechanism is completely distorted because there's one person there, and that's the Bank of Japan. And then they try to talk their way out of it, like, oh, we're going to do less of this. But there's really no way to talk your way out when there's just no one wants to go, because there's no way to price these. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no doubt about it, Bobby.
And so I think it's funny when everybody goes, oh, right. If you look tick for tick after what happened with the JGB failed auction, then you saw our yields on the long end go up. Italy, London, Germany, UK, it's all the G7, not just the United States. So there's that. And then I think fundamentals is about the constant bid that just never goes away, that you mentioned. Like, markets seem to be brushing everything off. I don't think it's just tariffs. I think it's structural changes to the market, such that, like, it's coming from the 401k. It's going in there, and you've got a lot of retail traders now just like throwing money. I feel like there's just like a structural bid under the market. But I don't know what your feel of it. I mean, you've been looking at it for a lot longer than I have, but it just looks relentless, and it's looked like that this whole year, like, except for ever since we kind of turned around. So
yeah, I agree with that. It's funny because I've always talked about how equities was really the only market out there in my 32 years that had sort of a permanent bid because of long only mutual funds and the like. But now it's more than that. It's way more than that. You have this, they talk about it on the crappy financial news stations that I watch for 5 minutes a day now, where they talk about the buy the dip crowd, every single dip, ever since COVID and probably before that. Essentially, there's this group, retail and otherwise, that says every dip is a buy no matter what. And it's almost like, it's weird. We talk about the zero DTEs and how they might actually be good for the markets long term, because people are going to get their nards blown up one of these days from some of these zero DTEs positions that they put on.
Right.
And it might be better long term for the markets because people can realize that, markets eventually always go up. But obviously, the two of us are old enough to have seen it. Emma, you probably read about it. The way that it worked, where you had the NASDAQ in 2000, 99 and 2000, dropped 73% over the course of like a year and a half. That would have really crushed those buy every single dip people.
Yeah. So the analog to that I've experienced is my brother, he's very smart, but he's an electrical engineer. He's not in finance, but he thinks he's smarter than I. And I kept telling him, you want long volatility exposure, not short volatility, but he knows everything, right? So weekend after weekend, I just stopped buying it. he owned a ton of XIV.
Hold on, what's XIV again?
The one that the short vol ETF that blew up.
Short vol ETF.
Oh, geez. Okay, yeah.
Amounts of income over and over for a long time, kind of like a Nasdaq deal, and then you lose it all, and then then you're back at zero and starting over. Like it's almost like a mathematical eventuality with the short vol funds that will occur. It's just a matter of when. So if you don't have a plan to get in and out of that, that is just simply retarded. Sorry.
I have a relative who did the same thing, took a 6-figure account into 8 figures just selling out of the money calls. Now, like, you can't keep doing that. No, it's fine. I mean, it always works. I win 98% of the time. He is now continuing his practice. I won't say what he practices, probably 15 years longer than he's wanted to so far. I mean, he thought he was retiring at 50 and it's 60. Well, no, it's 60 and he's 75 and he's still practicing what he practices. I don't want to make sure anybody figures out who he is.
I don't understand how people can't see that's just like
picking up nickels in front of the steamroller. We talk about it all the time. Remember after Volmageddon, the one hedge fund guy who had to go on his apology tour? Do you remember? Yeah, I can't remember what his name was, but remember those investors, like if you had $100,000 invested with him, most of those guys got, oh yeah, you lost your 100 grand and you owe us another 100,000 grand. Right. That was a real live legal obligation.
Your payoff profile for a short.
Hold that up longer. I mean, we don't want to cover your face too long, but
your hold that up longer. Profile for a short options position.
Spectacular.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
But
that's the clip for the show, by the way, guys, in the background. That's the clip you send out.
Because it really doesn't take a genius to see this, and it's always drove me crazy ever since I learned what an option was. I kid you not, that's what got me into finance when I was at Notre Dame. And I went like immediately. I was like, "Well, this is amazing!" Like the asymmetry on the upside with the long ball, but like being short ball with no straddle, like with no offsetting position, just seems. Yeah, I mean, I showed you the picture.
Now the people who have a system of always selling call spreads, always being short put spreads, and they have defined their risk. I don't mind that. And then all of a sudden you take you instead of cleaning up like these guys were doing in the short term, you're just making little amounts, drops, fill buckets kind of thing. And then when it whips around, you just lose the duration, the spread, and you can live to fight another day. Yeah. You think that some strategies like that can make some sense, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
They do. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about Bitcoin. You guys see that towards the end of the day, and I don't know if it went through my level. I think it's breaking out of a massive 2-month consolidation pattern, and I think it looks like it is going higher, perhaps precipitously. Emma, give me a fundamental thesis for Bitcoin, good or bad, and then if you hold it or not, and what do you think of it?
All right, so I hold it. I wish I had more.
Today.
Yeah, right. Well, I always wished I had more, but I didn't have enough money to buy more. Well, I thought I had to buy one whole Bitcoin at a time, so that was the problem. Because back in the day when I first bought these, I could buy one whole Bitcoin at a time. Anyway, so I do own it. I see the bull case for it, but I also. I'm a little, I for some reason, I don't know what it is in my Spidey sense. I get a little reluctant on anything other than Bitcoin that's coin-ish in the name. Because, you see it, when anytime I see a lot of people who are like evangelists, like kind of like a cult that will attack anyone and everybody who says like, oh, I can't pay for my Starbucks with my Bitcoin or something. And then you're gonna get assaulted on Twitter. Yeah. Like, that tells me that they've really got something to push to keep their and when just watching Mike Novogratz is just like he's
Mike Novogratz. So
if he got hit by a bus, they'd all be screwed.
He's the one who got the Luna tattoo, right, or something. Mike Novogratz, right?
I think so, and he's also the one who committed accounting fraud at the same firm, MicroStrategy. No, so it's not Mike Novogratz. What's his name? MicroStrategy guy, right?
Michael Saylor.
Michael Saylor, yes. So. MicroStrategy, 2002, commits accounting fraud, fakes revenues, doesn't even bother to change the company name, and completely warps the selling software, and it never kind of really was, and then just loads up on Bitcoin, issues convertibles, which therefore dilutes the equity holders in that MicroStrategy. But these people, I guess, don't understand. Like he says it out loud on TV, which is shocking to me. Like, I'm like, he just explained. I mean, I guess I can't hate him. He said it. He's not lying, right? But like the fact that like, why would you want the common stock when he just keeps borrowing against it and making it worth less and less, levering it up, and buying a bunch more Bitcoin so he can make a bunch of money. Like,
Bobby, you've bought MicroStrategies as a trade before. I know that,
Yeah.
and I have shorted it with puts as a hedge against my Bitcoin position because it's a levered play. But do you agree with what she's saying about MicroStrategies and Michael Saylor?
Yeah. So it's just from a strategy perspective. I bought MicroStrategy based on a price action pattern. I made money on it. I don't look at those things in terms of trades. My hold time is about 26 days. So I don't worry about it. The thing that I like to look at, I had a friend, and he's probably listening to the show right now. I had put out that I got long Palantir, and he texted me on the side saying I wouldn't buy a used car from Alex Karp. And my tongue-in-cheek response was, "Who's Alex Karp?" Like, I don't care. The trade was there, and I know that's not what you're saying, Emma. But go ahead.
So yeah, my thing is just I'm just wondering when this train can end, because I think he's moving the price. So anytime the price starts to kind of go against him, Michael Saylor with Bitcoin, he'll go issue a just go and look at the sizes of those convertibles that he's issuing, and then how much Bitcoin he's getting and how much trades daily. He's doing way more than the daily volume, like 5 times that in one trade when it starts going down and he reverses the trend. So, I mean, one could call that market manipulation. I don't know if that exists in a Bitcoin decentralized world. But congrats to him. Let's hope it lasts.
I wonder about something. Okay, when we talk about this, there was this huge tidal wave of people worried about Tether, and there were people out there saying they would not invest in Bitcoin until there was some sort of resolution about Tether. We know one of them very well, and he still holds that stance, and that kind of went away. First of all, I'm not sure why it went away. I wonder if you have a comment on that. And second of all, is that going to be the same thing with MicroStrategy, where people are talking about he basically sells shares and leverages shares to buy more Bitcoin, which is all the company does?
I don't think they will, because look at how long he's been doing it and saying it plainly on TV. I don't think they understand it. I think it's too complicated for most.
You know why I wouldn't be alongside Michael Saylor, and why my Bitcoin position isn't huge too, is I hate when people speak of the certainty with which he does. Because you and I have been around, Bobby and I've been around a long time, but you're not as old as us, but people who speak in certainty always end up wearing it. It seems like to me. The question just becomes when. So I'm going to use Microsoft probably as, buying put spreads to hedge my Bitcoin positions, thinking that it's going to go levered and the bottom's going to drop out of it. Does that bother you when he talks about it's going to 1 million? There's no other way. Yeah.
And that's how it seems to me, like almost all the Bitcoin maximalists tend to talk. And that's one of the other reasons why like my spidey sense go a little bit, I mean, heck, if I had the money, I don't need the money. I can buy fractional, but I should be buying more Bitcoin, because I mean, looking at the probabilities and looking at the market size and looking at the debasement of fiat around the world, it's been going on for a long time, and then this ratcheted up on steroids since 2008, I'll call it. It could very well go, with the declining supply, it could go. I like to have optionality. It's kind of like another long ball.
Bingo. You just hit it on the head. And I'm going to throw it to Bobby after I give a quick opinion on that too. And I think Bobby agrees with me on this. I believe in 10 years time, Bitcoin is going to be either 1 million or it's going to be 0. I think the likelihood is that it's 0. My thumbnail says about 60, 70% chance it's 0. 30, 40% chance that it's 1 million. I just don't want to miss out. And if I lose it, I lose it. But like you said, the smaller position, which is funny, it was a smaller position that grew into a medium-sized position now, with none of my doing, just the fact on price appreciation. But I don't want to be on the sidelines if it's $1 million and it really is the solution to profligate spending and bad stewardship of our currency. Bob, what do you think of that?
Well, I think fear of missing out is one of the biggest reasons it's rallying right now, because it still has not improved to where I can see its usability as a currency. And I may be wrong on that, but I haven't seen it.
So
sorry, I don't understand.
Theory.
When we have a show with Emma, there's always fun things that happen. So that's perfect. Who was that? Was that Siri or something?
Yeah, Siri. And every time I say Sandy, my daughter's name, she's like, yeah, how can I help you? I'm like, so anyway, as a currency, Bob, it can't. It would cause massive. If you're talking as a global currency, like not like to replace the U.S. dollar, that is not even a. And I hate to speak in certainties, but Jim, logic with reason with me here that like that can't happen because that would cause massive deflation and debt busts, given the structure of our system now. And if you have a money supply that is by algorithm, unless the algorithm is changed, of course, shrinking. What do you think that does to global growth and people with debt and then the cascading effects there? I mean, that doesn't work.
So where does its value come in then? I mean, if it's not going to be an actual means of transaction, people say a store of value, but first of all, I always said like Bitcoin to me was one of these things like I have never understood. And by the way, I do own some. I need to say that. And it's for the exact same reason. I don't want it to go to 1 million and I have none. You know, it's sort of the classic window dressing story. I need to have some so that I could tell my investors, of which I have no investors. I could tell my wife that, yeah, of course I own some. I'm not stupid. What do you want me to think I'm stupid? I'm not stupid. But it's literally, I can't understand, you know, its intrinsic value is that people think it has intrinsic value.
But that's
what intrinsic value is. And that's a real thing, right?
Yes.
And that's what our dollar is too, except that we can pay taxes with.
Except that we have a military to back it. I
mean, it's the full faith and credit argument, right? I can't pay my taxes.
It's the argument. It's every stock that's trading above its fundamentals is trading somewhat on the greater fool theory. The Honus Wagner baseball card, a Picasso, diamonds who have very little intrinsic value to them. Everything, if it has a history.
Honestly, gold for that matter.
Exactly.
Some conductivity, but it's certainly not that useful.
No doubt about it. And it is generally agreed upon that we are going to put value on this. And that can last thousands of years.
Emma, can I throw one thing in though? Like no one in the cult, as you called it, which I agree with you, by the way, is saying they're buying Bitcoin to eventually sell it and get dollars back. We're all saying that about stock. We're all saying that about gold. We're all saying that about copper and silver. We're all planning on selling that to get dollars back, to buy Lambos and to pay our taxes and everything else. None of the cult people in Bitcoin are saying they're ever going to sell it.
Let me put myself in a cult. Let me be a cult person real quick. Mm-hmm. It's going to go to $1 gazillion, and then we're gonna exchange all this, the Lambo dealer will take my Bitcoin, and then he'll give me a Lambo.
It has to be a currency, right?
What?
It has to be a transactional asset.
Like somehow we're gonna get but they don't think much through. They just because when you're an evangelist and you talk like an evangelist, you don't really logic.
Okay, that's fair.
Right? But like here's my reasoning of the potential value in the minds of people who want to hold it. Like even say some old person, for instance. I mean, there's very few of them who want to hold it, but there's a couple, I'm sure.
Two of them you're talking to.
But you're not old. Well, what I was thinking when it first came out, I remember watching it at Allianz at 5 cents, 7 cents. I was like, oh man, it's 30 cents. Oh, now it's 2 cents. Wow, those days, like I could be rich. Anyway, we all do that. Anyway, but at that time, I was thinking, it was 2011, 2012. We had just had the balance sheet go from, what was it, 400 billion to 400 million to 800 billion, and after 2008. Then now we went up to trillions. We went like parabolic since 2020, but it was still parabolic back after 2008. And so I'm going like, I want something that can hold value, and I don't. If they're just gonna, if that's when I first learned. Well, it was a little before that when I was in school, but I was like, well, what's the value of a currency? If they devalue it, and then they devalue it, and then they devalue it, and then they devalue it, then I guess the value of the dollar is just the discounted expectation of what all these other guys are going to do, right? And so when you realize it's all just floating, it's not attached to anything anymore. That can kind of make Bitcoin seem, because of that algorithm where it's shrinking in supply and I thought, shrinking in supply, I'm not, maybe it holds value at least. But that wasn't enough to get me to buy it until,
Bobby, you want to pivot to gold? You got some more on Bitcoin?
I want Deer Point. Deer Point's in here, and I want him
like Deer Point. He's
come
good
in and help us out. If you're there, just give it, help us out with this Bitcoin. He'll talk. I know he will. Just give us some help on this Bitcoin thing. Yeah, we can pivot to gold.
Yeah. So gold, so gold does not look like it's ready to break out yet. It seems to be in a consolidation pattern too. Is the gold story the same as the Bitcoin story, or is it just about central banks buying gold to de-dollarize? And I know they're not de-dollarizing in earnest, but they are de-dollarizing some. Emma, what do you got on that?
Yeah, so I don't think it's the central banks buying gold to de-dollarize that's driving the price up as much as it has. They've always been buying gold. Maybe they're buying a little more now. Maybe they continue to do so. I don't think that's going to be the thing that's going to cause a breakout. But I also don't think it's like the same thing as Bitcoin either. I think they're different crowds, right?
Well, there's certainly different crowds. I agree with you 100%
Different
on
crowds,
that.
yeah.
But
and
I
that's
wonder
the other
if
thing that bothers me about Bitcoin is if you're a Bitcoin devotee, why would you not recognize gold? It's also limited. Yeah, it's not as transportable. I get it.
Yeah.
But it's pretty transportable when it's sitting at 3,300. Like how much you got?
Insane that these people who are all Bitcoin or all gold and they fight against each other. Like when it's you can easily remedy that and have some exposure to both. This seems like insanity to me, Emma.
Yeah, especially when you can exchange gold easily to dollars to Bitcoin.
So easy.
But what's funny? I've got an anecdote for you. We have investors that are they're very wealthy families that are in South America. So in Venezuela. And I went down there and when Bitcoin was, I was interested in Bitcoin at the time. I think it was at about 4,000. I was like, I really want to buy a bunch. And so I started talking to the people down there, the wealthy, and then the people who are kind of around on the streets in the kind of nicer neighborhood in Venezuela, if you can imagine what that might look like. And they all said, get the fuck out of here with your fucking Bitcoin. Give me gold or dollars. I don't know what you're Bitcoin. But then I don't know, 4 years later, I go down there and it's Bitcoin. It's Bitcoin. Bitcoin's the next thing. Yeah, I mean, so when you get those on the ground insights from regular people, at the fancy, like the girl at the fancy hotel that's sitting at the bar waiting for the, corrupt Venezuelan politicians.
Which doesn't mean all Venezuelan politicians are corrupt.
No.
Just most.
Sergio earlier in the show.
Everything.
Luis, if you can put Sergio's comment up earlier in the show, he was just pointing out that Bitcoin was at new all-time highs, and he saw, put the next one up. He saw $112,035.
Yeah.
Actually, Coinbase had hit 112, 150, 291.
Yeah, I bought more today. Like I said on my Fox Business hit, if you guys who are watching were watching me, and I said it was at 109,500 about an hour and a half ago. I said above 110,500 I would buy it, and I did buy it. If anyone is keeping score, Bobby, what does the chart on gold look like? Where does that start to have a move higher?
Gold looks like it's having a little bit of sideways consolidation, as Mike Arnold predicted in our newsletter. But it is looking heavy on the chart. But it's still just in a dramatic uptrend. It really is. Right. And I still feel like, the issue to me is we've been sort of beating the drum, Emma, that tariffs are not inflationary. I think they're actually, as the left said early on, it's a tax. Taxes are deflationary, right? And now all of a sudden it's a tax and it's inflationary and it causes hurricanes. And it causes wildfires.
And it's Donald Trump's fault.
Right. And it's just everything's Trump's fault. So we were talking about it. I believe I saw you talk about it as well, that it's more deflationary because it is a tax. But if we get any sort of inflation from the copper tariffs, which I could see happening a little bit, you already said it's going to be nothing. So I know your opinion on that. When
I say nothing, I don't mean nothing to your average American person. I just mean nothing to America's ability to withstand it vis-a-vis those other countries' ability to withstand not being able to.
Okay, that's fair.
Can we take a quick time out here? Luis, will you put the banner up real quick? We are halfway through the show. Thank you guys so much for joining us. If you liked content, please do us a favor and scan that barcode and sign up for 3 free months of Tradier Pro. It is absolutely the top of the line options trading system there is. We talk to people who are experts who've traded options for 30 years. We talk to people who are novices, and they all get something out of that system. I can never get it cleanly. I'm never going to be a real journalist. I guess I don't even want to be a real journalist. Please try Tradier Pro for 3 months for free. No obligations. Thank you, guys. Bobby.
So real quick, we got 3 comments I want to focus on here. Rodrigo put up, Luis, that Bitcoin, which is something Emma was talking about. Bitcoin could also be protection against government in South America. See what happened in Venezuela. I think that's where you were going.
Yeah. And so
Emma, with that.
myself, when I worry about CBDC, I think about get all my money into Bitcoin, get it into another country where the US doesn't have jurisdiction to steal it or somehow get it. And so that, because if they ever go to a CBDC, they have to do it all at once, make all the money in your bank turns. It's CBDC. You can't like announce it in advance. And so if you don't do something, and this is kind of slowly making its way, and you don't prepare ahead of time and like doing something by like moving a bunch of your money.
You don't think there's no chance that the Bitcoin is the central bank digital currency? Is there no chance of that?
I don't see it. I don't see it. No.
Neither do I, but yeah.
Jim has a theory that Satoshi is CIA. So.
Yeah, you sound like my dad. My dad also said, and my husband.
But I said that it's a 5 to 10% chance. It is not a 0 chance.
Yeah, let's talk to your husband for one of these shows. One of these times, we'll get him.
I would not allow it. You'd have to go under a different name because then I'm not happy with that. No, not on me.
All right, Luis, can you throw up Widge's comment, please? Widge says, what you guys are discussing is why I like utility-based assets and have moved away from account-based. Anyone want to tackle that?
So what do you mean is like, so a gold would be account-based and utility-based was something like an equity that has a revenue stream and has utility. Is that what Widge means, do you think, Bob?
I'm thinking land.
Yeah.
I'm thinking land.
Be a little more specific, Widge. You know we love your stuff. Sometimes you think above us. You're too smart.
Widge is great. Emma, if you don't follow Widge, and Widge, if you don't follow Emma, that's both. You both make some mistakes there.
Is it on Twitter or how do you?
Yeah, that's him on Twitter. It's Widge.
Yeah. I'm going to take my jacket off. I'm finally not freezing my nards off anymore. Talk amongst yourselves.
At Third Gen Widget. At Third Gen Widget. You should follow him, Emma, because he does some great stuff. Okay, he says utility would be tools, equipment, and land. So Emma hit it on the head there. And then
I'm 100% with you, Widge. That's what I think. So another way, but that's the only thing that makes me nervous about that. I try to plan for every worst possible outcome when it comes to government. And so if I were to buy land and stuff here in the United States, what if, there's always a what if that they, I mean, one, you pay like property taxes to death, but 2, what if they start just going social? I mean, who knows? I just like to have my own like destiny under control and where I feel like it's safe from crime.
Bobby, do you have a place that's your prepper place that you would head to in the event that the shit was hitting the fan here?
Well, I used to think Belize.
Yeah. How would you get there though?
By boat.
Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
I got a plan.
I got a plan too.
You want to do it off the air or you want to do it on the air?
I'll do it on the air. I don't care if people think I'm crazy.
Oh,
go.
So buying a boat, like a sailboat, and water distillation on there, and you survive off the fish. I don't care if I end up in Timbuktu, but at least I'm alive.
Yeah. So is this a drink your own pee kind of situation?
No, because you got water distillation.
Okay.
Unless you want to, Bob.
Desalination.
Yeah,
sorry, I started with nard. Where am I going to go with this?
You got to live off of fish and whatever fruits are on whatever island you might land on. But like, it ain't that expensive as a backup plan.
I got a handful of acres in the mountains, in the Rockies, and plenty of food walks through my yard almost every day. And so, yeah, I think getting there would be a difficult time. So you got to get in your car and you got to drive, I suppose, if the shit's really hitting the fan.
So that's what I've also got. Big old things of gasoline. But it's a lot of gas, like the amount of gasoline you got to store to just be able to get to say from, I don't know, Texas to New York or California. It's because
before we get back to markets, and I do want to get back to markets. So you people who are listening, I'm sure half the people going, are you guys nuts? Well, in my mind, we went 20% of shit hitting the fan full scale in 2020. Like imagine an event that was, and I'm not even talking, I'm talking about the government and people's reaction, the drone people, zombies who were like, no mask, he must be banished. That was a weird time, and it shows that things can get really weird.
Yeah,
You
it
guys
was
don't
COVID
agree
that
with
made
that,
people
right?
weird.
I mean, you agree with
COVID
that, right?
made people conspiracy theorists,
I
especially
think
when
there's
like
more. Is
Jim
COVID,
was 20 out of 20 in his conspiracies.
Yeah.
but so I mean, everything was lied. We were lied to about everything though, and like, what's hilarious about it was I was wearing a mask and acting like a freak, like scaring people at the Costco in 2019 because I already knew about it. And then when everybody else was freaking out and the CDC was lying to everybody, I was walking around without a mask. People were looking at me like I was a jerk. Like it's just I get conspiracy theories would arise because when you get lied to and it's so blatant and obvious.
Latent. Yeah.
And then I think there's another factor though that's really strong and powerful when it comes to like creating these silos and fog of war is the technology and the algorithms. The way that we are like I never see your guys' tweets on this thing. All I see is Talib. I see the same
Yeah, I
Talib.
don't see you anymore at all.
I don't see you anymore either, almost ever. Yeah.
I haven't been tweeting to be frank because I've been very busy, but I've been pretty much underwater because AI is moving so fast that I'm building these systems. And my head's been. I didn't sleep last night, for instance, at all. That was intentional. But I'll be back. I have sporadic when I have to get to work. Anyway, but I don't know why I don't see you guys when I look. Like, even though I'm not tweeting, I should still see the people that I want to see. I'm going to start a new account and just put only those people on it.
The algorithm thinks it's dangerous that like-minded people are put together, so they keep
Us like-minded people, at least.
Bobby, Emma brought up AI. Do you got anything about it? You want to pivot to AI? Because I still think it's an investable thesis.
Yeah, we can, but I want to knock out some of these comments and
Oh, good,
some
yeah.
of them on old things. Sergio talked about MSTR here, and I like what he says here because I had somebody else say this to me. MicroStrategy weekly option chain is worth a look. I have a friend that sells MicroStrategy way out of the money calls to hedge his Bitcoin, and he says he thinks he might make money on both anyway. So he says he's selling MicroStrategy calls because he thinks that will blow up. And he hedges his Bitcoin with it to a certain degree. You know, he takes in income on selling those out of the money calls.
Oh, that's good.
But he also, go ahead.
That sounds like a good approach.
Yeah. So that's why I wanted to put that
I'd
up.
couple those with put spreads, and then you can even go further out of the money too to have some protection. Because I think if MicroStrategy falls apart, it falls apart hard, and the calls you just get the call if you sell the call.
And I'm just going to rattle through these real quick. Sergio said utility is good to own as volume of commodity goes up. You want to make money on the picks and shovels. That's what Widge was talking about. He agreed in a comment below that. And he said picks and shovels. Exactly right. Sorry, Louis, said I'm rattling through these so quickly. And then Sergio put out another point. Who made bank in the gold rush? Not very many prospectors. It was the guy who sold the wheelbarrows.
So Miracle Grow, buy Miracle Grow or something.
Miracle Grow. Well, this pivots well. This comment pivots well into AI. So that's kind of what I want to do.
Yeah.
Okay. So the data centers, is it? What's the picture?
You tell us, what's the investment thesis that hasn't been totally squeezed out yet? Like, you know, NVIDIA, I own NVIDIA and I'm happy to own NVIDIA. I think it's going to go to the moon. Is there anything that people are missing in investable thesis in AI?
Well, so what I think people are missing are they're not actually using like what I have been doing lately is not studying stocks on AI. I've been using AI and building systems so I don't have to do a job. Basically, it literally does almost all my job for me. Like it literally can do some of the most complicated quant systems that I put together that are models for the most obscure credit derivative structured product and show you your volatility exposure. You can change all kinds of stuff and I can make it all do it for me. Like delete it like in Python and tell it I want it to look pretty and like, so people like, I hate to say this on TV because I want to just hear, or rather everybody can hear because I kind of want to keep it to myself. but
that's
like,
my thesis. You know, I've said that many times is that I think AI is probably a year and a half further now than we know it, because a lot of independent, small contractors, lawyers, accountants, everyone like us, like I use it all the time, but we don't talk about it very much because nobody wants to face the reality that they are less useful to society now that AI has come about. I don't hear a lot of lawyers talking about using it. I hear IBM and Bank of America. You think that's a decent thesis?
IBM and Bank of America using AI?
No, and everybody else using it on a personal level and not telling anybody. Like, it is more omnipresent than we believe because every lawyer and accountant is using it.
Yeah, the lawyers and accountants are using it, but I suspect, just based on my general experience, been working, for instance, for a Big Four, my proclivity and propensity to explore these tools and learn them really well and was a lot different from your standard like lawyer or accountant. They don't really like dig in and see like what can we do with this thing. So I do see a lot of people like say to me, even really smart professors, Chris Balding, for instance, he goes, "No way, you can do that." He's like, "I was certain it could," and I was like, "You gotta call me because this is like, I want to show you what this thing has done." So I think there are, of course, a lot of closet AI users, but I think there's a lot of people that, like, maybe even yourselves included. I would love to show you some crazy. I think you'll be blown away. Like,
Yeah,
it's like it doesn't have to take your job if you just stay with it and build more with it. So you're for your own purposes, and so you know what I mean.
yeah, definitely. Bobby?
And right now is a perfect time because everybody's kind of at the same level.
So it's funny. I actually, I don't own NVIDIA anymore. It's just way too overdone for me. I'll probably own it again. I like some of the catch-up trade with AMD and Broadcom and some of those stocks. I do own Broadcom. I don't own AMD right now, but I will be getting back into that.
Do you know Broadcom is like the 8th highest market cap in the NASDAQ? I was going over some set yesterday that blew me away. I was so surprised.
I also own MAGS, Roundhill Investments Magnificent 7 ETF, just to kind of like have my hand in that. But I'm starting to look more at quantum computing stocks. And there's two reasons, because I think they're underloved right now for what they're likely to be. And again, it's one of the things that bothers me a little bit about Bitcoin is some of the real quantum devotees say that, the average person is going to get their Bitcoin stolen from quantum computing. Of course, it has to be online. If you got in a cold wallet, they can't get to your cold wallet.
Yeah, but nobody's good. I mean, what are the percentage of people that actually have cold storage?
I don't have cold storage yet, and my Bitcoin position is decent at this point in time. And
yeah, it's going to be one of those things like quantum computing. You telling me that, like, the North Koreans and whoever else aren't going to be using it, steal Bitcoin. Your average person is going to get all their Bitcoin stolen if it's true that those keys can be cracked in days and possibly hours by quantum computers, and it's not that far away.
So that's the key question. How far away is it? Because I keep hearing this. I've been told this for so long that we're going to be able to, we're going to have a lot more problems than Bitcoin if quantum computers can break SHA 256 security protocols, because so I don't know. And then they have stories about the Chinese having a quantum computer that could do it. Yeah, right. They'd already have stolen all the Bitcoin.
They would have stolen it all already. Yeah.
And so have you been looking into the stocks or reading the management team stuff? I really don't know where we're at. I just always go when it hits.
What I think right now is most well positioned is Rigetti. It's RGTI. And I like the price action on it as well.
You like it as an Italian name too, and
I love that it has an Italian name.
I'll have the Rigetti with
so that's one of the ones I like. They snapped out just in 2024. They really snapped higher after they were just kind of trailing in those penny stock ranges. But I think the stock's going to get up to about $26, $27. I do own it right now. I plan to own more of it. We're
double.
Yeah, we're seeing a breakout in the next couple of days. So I think a double is very likely in that stock. But again, it's one of those things, like, I could easily be wrong about this particular play. I don't think that I'm necessarily smart enough in the sector to say that this is the right one. But let's say I'm not picking NVIDIA. There's going to be a trail that these stocks are going to follow through on.
Wow, like the profitability on this thing is insane. Or am I looking at ridiculous?
You're looking at the right thing.
Give me the symbol one more time.
Net profit margin.
RGTI.
What?
RGTI.
Yeah. Check it out.
Yep, I'm gonna for sure. I would own something just because it's called Brigetti.
Net profit margin for the March 2025 quarter of 2,895%.
Love that pattern. It's a huge bull pennant over on the 3-year chart.
How do you even do that?
Yeah.
Anyway. If there's anybody in the comments that thinks I'm wrong about this, just give me a one-word thesis on it. You suck will be enough for me. That's enough for me.
Yeah.
I like taking conviction on things and then like try to find people that tell me I'm wrong, like walk me off the edge. So
people like us like to be told we're wrong. Everybody else on Twitter hates to be told they're wrong and they get all defensive. I just don't understand that.
Do you know how I ended up becoming partners with Mike Arnold? Emma, I don't even know if you know who Mike Arnold is. Sterling is in the chat right now. He knows who Mike Arnold is. He's the best technical analyst on the planet, in my view. I had an educational trading class at the University of Illinois in Chicago. It was like 2010, 2009, something like that. It was a long time ago. And he bought a ticket for it and showed up. And he had like bought this trading course that I was selling through some guys for a little while, which I hated. But he had bought it, and he walked up to me at one of the breakout sessions and he said, "So I learned your strategy." He bought it 2 days ago. And he's like, "So I learned your strategy. I think it's really good." I'm like, "Great." He goes, "But I also think I've improved it." Now, if I was a dick, right, I would have been like, "Who the hell do you think you are?" Turns out he's been trading like 5 years longer than me, has a master's from Northwestern in mathematics and electrical engineering. And he was one of the initial market makers at the Swiss Options Exchange and traded at the SIBO for years. And this was just some guy who came up to me and says, "I think I improved your strategy." Now, again, what if I was an asshole? What if I was one of these arrogant
Would have
guys?
been more of an asshole.
See, the difference between real life and
He did improve it, by the way. Go ahead, Emma. I'm sorry.
See, there's a difference between real life and Twitter. Not for you. I'm sure you wouldn't be an asshole in real life or Twitter. You're not, or you. But people, it's like people behind a car. They have all they're all a-holes, no courtesy, you know, flipping people off because they have the safety of the car to hide behind. Just like Twitter, they got their hidden little handle. They don't give their real name, and they just go around talking crap, and it just. Yeah. Who has time for this? You know what I mean? It says something more about them than it does anybody else.
But can I tell you a quick story about Twitter? And this actually affects my night. In about an hour, I'm meeting him again. About 2 months ago, I got a message from a guy on Twitter saying, "I'm going to be in Chicago in Mundelein. I would like to meet up with you. I've known you from Twitter." And I said, "Yeah, that might be cool. Coming out to Brant's." He goes, "And the reason I want to is that there were some arguments on Twitter, and I like the way you handle it. And you said to somebody who was coming after me, don't come after him. You don't go after him. He's a pretty good guy." So I was like, "Okay, great, whatever." So he shows up at Brant's, full priest garb. He's in Mundelein, which is, you don't know Chicago. That's where the seminary is in the Chicago area. So he's here for 3 weeks getting his PhD in theology. He's a full Catholic priest. And he was like, "Yeah, no, I just liked your style on Twitter." And I thought it was kind of cool. And he's a great guy. We're meeting again tonight, having another couple of drinks. Kind of fun.
Yeah, I like your style on Twitter too. It's perfectly, let's engage in productive discussion here and not ad hominem. I like always pick on people when somebody attacks someone else, like their person. It's like that has nothing to do.
Yeah, don't be dick. Right.
Ad hominem. I just say ad hominem stacking. Like,
Bobby, any more? Cover a couple more markets before we go. That's what some of the.
I got a quick Twitter question. This will be the last question that I ask because I asked them all basically. But on Twitter, Ed McKernan, who's been on the show actually, said, "Does Powell get his Jackson Hole vacation, or will his understudy fill in for him?" There were rumors today that Powell was resigning.
I think there's a mutiny going on at the Fed probably anyway by people who are positioning themselves for one to be the new Fed governor. I'm talking about who's on Waller and somebody else. Who am I thinking of? Do you know, Emma? People who
the main guy, the one that Trump wants to be.
Yeah, exactly. He's on the Fed too. So those guys are in a full-on mutiny against Powell, probably just as a self-preservation mechanism. So Powell has to go. He is making a mistake. Emma, do you think he's making a mistake or no?
Making a mistake by doing what?
So here's my contention is that we know that real estate has begun to turn around, and it doesn't show up in the CPI because it lags quite a bit. Last week, we saw a shitty ADP number. I think we saw a shitty NFP number because the private sector job creation was down. There were government jobs and average work hours worked per week. I couldn't say that on Fox today either. Average hours is trending down, which is the precursor to job losses. It makes sense to me that some of these companies are not shedding jobs because of a couple of years ago there was a labor shortage, and they're a little reluctant to do it. But once they do, I think it's going to be a problem, and I think it's beginning already. Is that a good thesis?
Okay. Well, yeah, but there's one thing. So I was listening to a Wall Street Journal podcast yesterday about, oh no, AI is taking jobs, but irrespective of why, how we got there, but it said today of the top biggest companies in the S&P 500, 1 out of 5 employs less people than they did 10 years ago. That tells me 80% employ more.
Yeah.
Like,
Right,
so, I guess that actually supports your thesis. There's plenty of room to.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Shed it. You know what I mean? I did tweet once out of like the blue about that. I said, you got to love this. Like, you know what I mean? That's about all I said.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that makes sense. And I think so in turn, you mean he should have cut, right?
Yeah. I think he should cut now. I think he
I think he should have cut. I mean, yeah, I mean, he's being punitive.
Yeah, I do too.
There was one other thing too. When Trump was that yesterday or today, when he started yelling about he's got to cut now, whatever, too, and all of a sudden the market started to react to it. Short-term rates went down a little bit, but so did long-end rates. Remember the last time he cut by 50 basis points, 10-year yields shot higher, meaning that the market looked and said, no, you shouldn't be cutting. It's inflationary. Now, both these moves were small, but they were in the same direction, which to me is kind of a little hint that the bond market is saying, yes, the path is cleared for you to ease if you want. Does it make sense? Ease
being in reducing the rates, yes.
Sure. Right. Yeah. Not any sort of QE yet. Is that what you mean? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm done with that. I hate liquidity pumping.
Yeah. Bob, you got any closing questions or no?
No, I agree with you on that. I mean, yields backed up quite a bit today.
Yeah.
And I think that it's strange to me, and this may have something to do with, remember, it was Rudy Havenstein when we had him on the show a while back. He said he knows someone who went to college with Powell, and he said that Powell would stand in front of a brick wall trying to get through it. And he would stand there, hey, we're all going out. We're going to have fun. We're going to dinner. We're going to have some drinks. No, I got to get through this wall right here.
Yeah,
and I think,
stubborn guy. Yeah.
Contrary to what he says, he doesn't want to give Trump what he wants. That's my honest opinion. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what it feels like to me.
All right.
Hey, real quick, Tommy Jersey, Luis. Anyone, Jimmy, I think you talk about this a lot. Anyone pay attention to M2 aggregates? Luis, can you put that one up real quick?
I think it's pretty.
Jimmy, I know you used to. I don't know if you still do.
I have the M2 chart up all the time, along with the Fed's balance sheet. The
Fed's
balance sheet is
there,
not
Luis.
declining as much as it was, and M2 is now at new all-time highs.
Yep.
So I think that could be part of the reason that a lot of these assets are rallying. Emma, do you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and why is M2 rallying so much? Just because we never cut back any spending. We're still spending like drunken sailors, even though we said we wouldn't, right?
It is a little too complicated for me.
That's what I think is the gist of it. That because it doesn't matter that much what the reason is, but yes, M2 has gone to new all-time highs and has really had pretty dramatic rebound from that 4.6% drop that happened a couple of years back. So I actually think that's one of this liquidity trade is part of the reason why Bitcoin, gold, stocks are heading through the moon. I think that's a good observation, Tommy.
It is definitely bullish for stocks. I mean, we've got deficit spending 6.7% of GDP. That's the highest ever. So
yeah, is that under the new bill, the Trump bill?
Yeah, that's under the new one. But
that was the same last year too, right?
We're 6.5 last year, so it's not that big of a jump, but it's still a jump.
Oh, I heard it was under Biden. It was 6.7.
No, 6.5. That last I saw, I could be wrong. I mean, I could be wrong.
Too, so remember, I thought the one guy on Bloomberg's name was anyway. So if the only thing on M2 couldn't have to do with a lot of what the Fed did when you print $4 trillion and just slosh it around with BlackRock and everybody else.
Yes, I think that could have something to do with it as well. And look and for people who watch our Fed balance sheet watchers, it is not declining at the slope it was declining even months ago. Things have changed a little bit. They are not engaging in the same level of QT, quantitative tightening, as they had been before. I think that's significant.
I do too.
Doing that on the mortgage side to try to ease up on the rates.
That's what I think. I think they're quietly trying to keep the 10-year in line, so they don't want to keep selling it so the rates go higher. That's what I believe.
Yeah.
Anyway, that is Emma Muehlman from Ascend Capital, macro strategist, and a lot of fun to talk to. We appreciate having you. Follow her on Twitter at
Emma CFA1.
Emma CFA1. Bingo. Thanks, Luis. Luis is right there. This is Tradier's The Trader's Edge. I'm Jim Muriel. That's Bobby Iaccino. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Remember, Bobby and I were in legacy media for 25 years. Everywhere we went, overzealous producers or sponsors were leaning on you for what you couldn't say. And this is about policy opinions that you couldn't say, or different, or opinions about a stock. We cannot deal, and it's not going to be a surprise to any of you that we cannot deal in that sort of environment. Also, check us out at Unfiltered Investor, where we take some of these Tradier topics and go into more detail on them. Thank you guys so much for joining us on The Trader's Edge.
Jimmy, do you want to see?
You know how the financial world goes. Here comes the buzzkill. Please make sure to take some time to read this boring disclaimer. We will owe you one.